Wait, just kidding. This iPad's getting harder and harder to work every day. Welcome, everybody, to the Blue Review. Oh, man. Little palate cleanser last night. That felt good, everybody. Second straight win. Of course, putting up 9 runs. So the offense is looking good. But we said it before the show, guys. All our conversations recently has been about pitching. So we're going to get into a lot of that, a lot of Yamamoto, maybe who our X factors are going into the playoffs and more. But before we do anything, we're introducing our guest, our very special guest, Clint Macias. Thank you for joining us on such late notice. Greg, of course, is going to be filling in for Travis. So the Travis and DeMarco show will be Greg and DeMarco this morning. But Clint, how are we feeling, man?
We're feeling pretty good. You know, you needed to at least split that series after losing the first 2 surviving stinkers from Landon Knack and Jack Flaherty. But, you know, got to take advantage of the Marlins over the next 3. Beat bad teams. That's what this team needs to do. They control their own destiny, and that's where we're at, gentlemen.
Magic number is 9, as we mentioned, again, before the episode. So a lot of stuff to get into. I just want to remind everyone before we get into it, before Marcus and Clint, you guys just go hardcore Dodgers talk in the morning. We here at the Blue Review are presented by LAX, and our friends at Los Angeles International Airport, of course, are changing the travel experience, reducing traffic, saving guests time. So if you want to learn more, you can check it out at flylax.com/transforming LAX. And I just was taking a look at the chat, and shout out to Nick Ramos for saying, glad to see Joe Kelly doing podcasts in his rehab now. And I thought for a second he was talking about me because I got my stash in the hair going.
I feel it now. I see it.
Anyways.
And you're coming back today, Joe.
Good. Right. It's good to know.
That's right. Hey, guys, I'm healthy. Let's get into it. Marcus, last night, Yamamoto, not the greatest performance, but he got through it. 4 innings, of course, put up 72 pitches. What were you thinking just from his performance last night?
He just battled. It was not clean the way we saw previously against the Cubs when he went out and just completely shoved. This was more of him sort of walking a tightrope, right? Every leadoff hitter that he faced got on base. Not only that, every leadoff hitter he faced ended up at third at some point, yet somehow he was like Neo in the Matrix, just dodging bullets throughout this entire start. So, Clint, I feel like that's one of those starts where, we would always love for it to just be clean, to have him go and mow down guys through 4 or 5 innings. But also, though, these were the sort of starts that you sort of like to see, because we know that playoff innings aren't going to be clean. We know that they're going to be guys on base. So to see him sort of work through traffic and give them a 0 over 4 innings, I think that was sort of encouraging for his second start back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to see him battle without his best stuff. Didn't really have the splitter working the way he did against the Cubs. Didn't really have the slider, the swing and miss that he had, against the Cubs. But he still battled, still put up, magically somehow found a way to put up goose eggs. And that's what you got to do. And I would rather see him have this kind of battle start in his second start back than it be in his first start in the postseason or something like that. So take that information and let's run it forward, and hopefully in this next one he's crispy. Next one, 6 days away or something like that. Rest.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're really working hard to keep him on that same schedule he had in Japan the whole time. Which, by the way, I guess this sort of dovetails, though, right? Because we're going to be talking about this pitching staff from now until whenever the season is over. This does mean trying to get all your ducks lined up for the playoffs. And right now, with Tyler Glass now gone for the year, it looks like Yamamoto is in line to maybe be a game 1 starter, potentially he or Flaherty, I guess, in this situation. I know Dave Roberts had the team meeting, and he looked around at all these guys. He said, we have enough pieces here to win a World Series. I think in our hearts, we want to believe that. But Clint, I mean, it really is about how do they get this starting pitching lined up? How do they get this bullpen lined up? I mean, after Flaherty and Yamamoto, what do you envision as being the rest of this starting rotation?
Yeah, I mean, Walker Buehler, Butane's going to have to step up. I really, really liked what I saw out of his final 3 innings in his start on, was it Sunday? Mm-hmm. There was something there. I think when you get Walker Buehler kind of pissed off or in a moment that requires, that sort of elevated mindset, whatever the hell that means, a postseason setting. I think he turned on postseason mode, and we've seen what Walker can do in the past when he's in that mode. So if you get that kind of a new version of the old school Walker Buehler as your number 3 starter, you're not going to be in a bad spot. So I'm kind of not as worried about the pitching as maybe I should be. You would like to have some more healthy bodies in there, but I feel better about this pitching staff, this pitching situation than what we saw last year, and maybe even in 22, where the only good pitcher in 22 was Tyler Anderson, who now has since left us for the Angels, so sucks on him. But I feel better because you have two actual bona fide aces as opposed to Clayton Kershaw with the shoulder falling off, Lance Lynn, who just gave up another home run right now as we speak, and then Bobby Miller, who maybe doesn't have it all between the ears sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of I think what's funny is that we're at a point right now where I think every fan is sort of living and dying on every single start, and each start kind of turns into a referendum of what we might see in October. I think because, to your point, I remember I was looking at this with Greg. It has been 2 seasons. I think it was 2022, 21. The last time the Dodgers had a starter go at least 5 in a playoff game. It's been a while, you know.
It's a problem.
Yeah, it's absolutely a problem. So, I mean, but okay, so if we've got, if we go on the premise that, in some form it's going to be Flaherty, Yamamoto, and Buehler as the top 3 guys, you were saying this before the show started, that we have to sort of already get ready and get comfortable with the idea of a bullpen game, because it does seem like it's going to be inevitable for this group.
Yeah, absolutely. I will tell Dodgers fans right now, get your mental setup prepared for bullpen games in the postseason. You're going to see 1, you're going to see 2, you're going to see as many as they need to find that way to get to 11 wins by the beginning of November if they're playing a game 7 in the World Series. But I do really, really like this bullpen, even with Joe Kelly, who's also producing the show here, coming back today. I really like this bullpen. I think this is one of the better bullpens that we have seen as well. What's going on, Joe Kelly? JK99 in the chat right there. So if you're opening a game with Ryan Brazier and you're piggybacking him with Landon Knack, need to see something out of Landon Knack in this Marlins series. I think you're set. You are more set up for success than just running out kind of washed or has been starters like we saw last year in particular. So I feel a little bit better about it. But again, I don't know if I'm blowing smoke up my own what in this and just trying to paint some sort of pretty picture that isn't really there. But mentally, I feel more confident about these 13 guys they could potentially run out there. Maybe there's a magic Shohei that pops up at the end of the postseason as well. I think they have the pieces and they have the offense to put up some crooked numbers and buy that pitching staff some relief, as it were, in some games.
Yeah, see, I'm with you though on the bullpen, right? Because I feel like when we talk about the guys in the Dave Roberts trust tree, you can feel pretty good about most of those guys, right? Whether it's Phillips, Kopech, Hudson, Trinan, Vesia. Yeah, like those guys you feel really good about. It's nice to have Brusdar Graterol back, and get him kind of working again. All of a sudden, it's like Pokemon. A wild Tony Gonsolin might appear. We'll see if that happens at some point in the postseason as well. My concern, I think the concern of a lot of Dodger fans, is making sure that starter gets through ideally 5 innings, maybe more than that, because it feels like that's been the issue the last couple of seasons, is you have starters that are struggling to get out of the 3rd inning, and suddenly you've got 3 games in a row where you're taxing the bullpen, especially because they don't have a long relief guy. Ideally, Clint, I guess that falls on potentially a Landon Knack, maybe to be that guy to eat 2 or 3 innings if you need to in a postseason game.
Yeah, I mean, Landon Knack absolutely should be that guy. They do have Justin Wroblewski around. We haven't seen enough out of Wroblewski. I see the chat. You also mentioned Tony Gonsolin. He's somebody who's trying to ramp up and maybe be a piece, maybe be a weapon. Jasmeet in there, however you say the name. I apologize, bringing up Tony Gonsolin. The numbers weren't as pretty in his most recent rehab outing, but he's still somebody who has performed at an elite level for this team. He's an all-star for a reason. So if he's somebody who can come back and be built up to 2 or 3 innings, maybe even 4 in a bullpen role, he doesn't necessarily need to open games or start games if he's a starter. That's another big weapon, but they are going to have to kind of figure out how many long relievers are they going to have on the staff, because one or two of those guys is taking away from that core that you had just talked about. It's not going to take away from Kopech or Hudson and Vesia or Phillips or whatever, but it's still going to take away maybe a Ryan Brazier who could be their de facto opener in a postseason series, or maybe a Joe Kelly who, then he could be here all postseason long running the show and all of that. So they need to figure out how many pieces they're going to have in place there, but options are there. And I guess that's a good thing. Is there anybody that kind of stands out for you as, I guess we can call it like a bullpen secret weapon or like an X factor in your opinion?
I mean, I think it is going to be maybe a Knack or somebody like that, just because, recent history has shown that guy that could come in and get you 6 outs or more has been really, really important. Now, ideally, they don't have to use him in high leverage situations. It would be sort of nice if we're seeing Landon Knack and, it's a situation where they're winning and just trying to hold on to a lead, as opposed to, hey, we got to stop the bleeding and try to get this offense back in it, because that's what it's been the last couple of years. So we'll see. I was going to ask you, though, like, we've talked about, Greg and I have talked about the back end of the bullpen and sort of the roles these guys are in. For you, who is the closer on this team, or does it even matter as long as they're just getting those outs in the 9th inning?
Yeah, it's about getting the biggest outs in the biggest moments, or the right people getting the biggest outs in the right moments. Whatever lane, as Dave would say, whatever lane he needs to throw Michael Kopech in. We saw that in Saturday or Sunday's come from behind or come from ahead win. I think we would call that one technically. Kopech got those massive 3 outs in the bottom of the 8th to keep the game there, and then Dodger offense exploded on Raisel Iglesias, put up that 9-run inning or whatever it was, and you go on and win the game. And then Gratterall is the one who's able to close it out and get those final 3. I like having that kind of optionality as another team word from there, more Dodger speak there. Having that optionality, anybody could pitch in any inning and crush it in that inning. So I don't think having a de facto postseason closer has done a whole lot for teams in recent years. I just really don't. So I like this setup.
All right, that makes me feel better, because I know that's a thing. Look, I will admit that sometimes I can get stuck sort of in a way of thinking, right? That we're so used to seeing. I mean, look, how many years we're 9th inning hits, California Love plays, everybody goes nuts, and then Kenley shuts it down. Like, we don't, we haven't seen that this year, where it's been Phillips, sometimes it's been Kopech. You mentioned it was Gratterall in the 9th a couple of days ago. So that, I guess there's more than one way to do things, and considering the old way hasn't been working, maybe it is time to sort of switch some things up.
Yeah, I mean, that terror we had in a lot of those postseasons with Kenley coming into the 9th inning. So having either a Kopech or a Phillips in the right lane, or Vesia even closing out some games, because Alex Vesia, an absolute unsung hero in this Dodgers bullpen this year. Just get me outs, get us 27 outs. Yeah. That's what we need. I will add, though, we're talking about potential bullpen games and an overworked staff. There is going to be a world of weight on the shoulders of Jack Flaherty and Yoshinobu Yamamoto to be the 2 grown-ups in that rotation. We'll give a little bit of a pass for Walker. Give us what you can out of Walker Buehler if you're going to be that number 3 starter. But those dudes need to give some innings to give this bullpen any chance of surviving through the postseason gauntlet.
Do they need another left-hander in this bullpen?
I mean, it was nice having Anthony Banda around, for sure. I mean, it depends on really what teams they're facing. If if it's somebody who has to get into a World Series with the Yankees and Juan Soto, you probably want a couple of options in there. But I think that's going to kind of depend series by series. And right now, I don't know who they're even set up to play in a potential postseason setting. I think it might be the Brewers or whatever. I got to look at their lineups, but that's what it's going to kind of be based on. But either way, I'll still stick with get me people that are going to get you outs.
Talk about last night's game a little bit too, because obviously it ends up being a 9-0 win. Everything was great. We talked about Yamamoto sort of battling through. Can we talk a little bit about Tommy Edman and how much he's meant to this club? Because it's been amazing, right? For a guy that, obviously because of the injury, he wasn't, somebody that a lot of teams are really checking for. Even the Dodgers, once they traded for him, had to wait a week or two for him to show up. he has, for my money, been a perfect fit on this club. You talk about optionality, right? Being able to play the outfield, being able to play shortstop, giving you offense. I mean, for a while he was, Tommy Ed Tani, it seemed like, at the plate, hitting bombs every night. I mean, he really has been the perfect answer. He has been what, guys like Kike and Chris Taylor were in the past. It seems like that's what they're getting out of Tommy Edman right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Tommy Edman has been everything this ball club needed. Like you said, the perfect addition, somebody who could play a premium or a plus center field, a premium or a plus shortstop. You could throw him in at second base if you need. He also made, in my opinion, he made this roster like Chris Taylor proof. I don't think Chris Taylor makes the postseason roster. He shouldn't make the postseason roster at this point. Andy Pages has more power off the bench. He crushes left-handed pitching, two things that Chris Taylor does not do anymore. So having Tommy Edman be that other guy who's that kind of backup super utility guy who's also an integral part of that lineup, and what he's doing, whether he's batting 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th in that lineup, he's extended the hell out of this lineup and really has set them up for success. You get him, you get my postseason secret weapon and Miguel Rojas doing what he's doing, and it's a perfect like amalgamation of guys that are doing their jobs. We've seen good teams in the postseason before have those guys that keep the line moving and all this kind of stuff, and it's not just the Dodgers waiting for the top 4 dudes to hit a homer. My buddy Doug McCain likes to say, if you want the dub, you got to slug. Sometimes you also just got to put the ball in play, find some grass, move some runners over. And that's what this lineup can do. And I love it. And Tommy Edman, huge role in all of that.
Yeah, I love what I think it was Nick Ramos in the chat here. He says future postseason hero Tommy Tanks.
Ooh,
I texted, it's funny, I texted exactly that to Marcus and Greg after, to your point, Clint, he just got like a nice contact hit. I looked over and I texted the guys. I was like, yeah, Tommy's going to have a moment in the playoffs. No context. I was just like, you could see that he's that kind of guy, as well as your secret player, Miggy Rowe. I mean, when he was just fighting off that, I think it was a 2 count maybe, but he like fell to his knee and he just brought his hands inside and that little blooper over to the right field side. These are the kind of guys who you said are extending that lineup. And if you want to win, you got to slug, like our good friend Doug McCain says. So I'm honestly excited for this offense moving forward. And I mean, they put up 9 runs back-to-back games against good, decent pitching. So I get it took until like the 7th inning, but sure.
I want to ask the both of you guys this, because it feels like particularly the last 2 games, and we hear about Dave Roberts kind of having this conversation, clubhouse meeting and all that. It feels like the guys kind of have a little bit of a different approach. You're not seeing the big swing. What kind of keys it off for me? You saw that just put the ball on the ground and poke a single towards second base or through the second base hole from Teoscar Hernandez, getting a run in, keeping that inning alive. I think they're even Shohei Ohtani not showing out for power, with runners on. He's just poking. I mean, they're screaming doubles, but he's still just poking doubles down the right field line. Yeah. It feels like there's a little bit different approach in this lineup. Am I making this up? What do you guys think?
No, I don't think you are at all. I have noticed that. I think especially when you get runners in scoring position, you get, especially less than 2 outs, guy on third base, it does seem like there is a different approach to this team, something that we haven't seen in years past. I mean, I don't know the numbers offhand, but yeah, they keep flashing it on the broadcast about how good they are with runners in scoring position since the All-Star break. They're finding ways to make it happen. And you're right. I mean, it's Miggy Rowe just dumping one into right field. It's Teoscar hitting just a ground ball. I mean, it's definitely not going to be one of the hardest hit balls he has all year, but it was in the right spot, right? And I think that speaks to the approach at the plate, where in the past, I think we all got a little bit queasy because how many times did we see this team with second and third or bases loaded and less than 2 outs and find a way to not score a run? This year, I feel confident that they'll get at least 1, maybe 2 of those runs home, because you get a sac fly, you get a base hit or an extra base hit, and then what we saw the last couple of days, Parker and Clint, just then the floodgates open, right? The 7-run 9th inning, the 6th run was at 7th inning yesterday. It's just that once everything gets rolling, like eventually you get a couple of those big bombs and everything just really spirals from there.
Yeah, and you wonder if it's not necessarily just like an organizational turn, or if it's more of like these vets kind of showing the guys, hey, look, if we really want to perform and succeed in the playoffs, we got to manufacture these runs. I mean, you had that sequence by Miggy Rowe where he just stole third, and then he went on the pass ball and scored. Who said he can't run? Come on now.
Oh man, putting the wheels down.
That's right. And that's the type of play that you want to see as you're nearing the playoffs, as the magic number is 9. You want to see guys who are willing to do anything and everything to win. So it is promising moving forward. And of course, like we said, and we talked about the entire beginning half of this episode, it is all about pitching at the moment. But it is nice to talk about the bats because, you got to slug. But Clint, I mean, outside of Tommy and Miggy Rowe and some of these secret weapons, I mean, Freddie had the 3-run bomb yesterday against his, former team. What are we seeing about some of the big four as we're nearing the end of this? Mookie's obviously been great with runners in scoring position the entire season. Freddie has kind of had an off season compared to his years in past. I don't know. Where are we at? Who of those four I think are you most excited for heading towards the playoffs?
Well, I think the baseball world has got to be excited to see Shohei Ohtani playing postseason baseball. That is going to be a fun watch. But it's the whole you're continuing the next man up mentality, and I think you're also seeing that with the top 4, top 5 in the lineup. Seeing the other teams walking Shohei Ohtani and Mookie being like, "Don't worry, I got this, boys." That is fun. I did like Dave flipping the lineup a little bit and moving Teoscar Hernandez up to that 3 hole against the lefties. And if we're going to see that more, that's good. And it kind of, worked. Batting cleanup kind of worked for Freddie yesterday. We don't know if that's going to be the thing moving forward, but there's no easy outs. If anything, you could say the easy out in the top 4 is Teoscar Hernandez. He's a free swinger, but he's also got 90 RBI. He's approaching 30 homers. He's hitting 270 or whatever it is. It's such a good top of the lineup. And I pray, and I also think we will not see the kind of stinkers that we saw. I'm going to keep going back to last year's postseason because everything that could go wrong did go wrong with that. And I don't think we're going to see that this year. You got some guys that are hungry, that are willing to make some sacrifices for their own numbers, don't care about what the StatCast numbers flash up. Get on base, next man up mentality. And that's what you're going to see, especially out of the top 4, because top 4, I think they're looking all at each other as a top 9. And that's a good mindset to have.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And we spent so much time last year talking about the failures of the pitching staff. It did sort of overlook the fact that Mookie and Freddie had terrible postseasons as well. They just did not hit in the playoffs. And I do like the switch of moving Teoscar up to 3 because, quiet as it's kept, he was in a little bit of a slump recently. We were sort of able to kind of ignore that because everybody else was doing their either the offense was great or everything was terrible. And so Teoscar kind of slid under the radar. But I think you put him ahead of Freddie. Now all of a sudden he gets some more pitches to hit because you definitely don't want to put anybody on base ahead of Freddie Freeman. So I think this is a really good move. I'm with you though, Clint. I think we're going to see this offense show up. I said a few weeks ago, I just have this feeling that Shohei is going to go nuclear in the postseason. I mean, he's been waiting all this time to get here. He's in the midst of what's been a magical offensive season. I think he's, if it's possible for Shohei Ohtani to hit another level, I think he hits another level in the playoffs.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I quite literally was cleansing my palate last night just because of maybe my fandom as a kid. They happen to be the worst organization in the world. So I was watching Ohtani versus Trout in the WBC just to kind of put myself to sleep. And you are right, Marcus. I think he also will go nuclear, and it would be super exciting to see. But Clint, we got to get over to Greg and DeMarco shortly here. So I just want to thank you for being here on such short notice. Where can we find you and roll out the red carpet for you? Where's the easiest way to find you? Where's your shows? All this great stuff that you're doing.
Well, find me here on the internet. I got a YouTube channel called All Dodgers with Clint Pasillas. That is this guy. Give me a follow there. Give me a subscribe there. I also co-host a show with Alana Rizzo called Dodgers Territory every Monday, every Thursday, live at noon o'clock Pacific time on our on our Dodgers Territory YouTube channel, part of the Foul Territory network of shows. So give me a follow there, or Real FRG on the social medias. Appreciate you, gentlemen, as always, having me on. And let's try to link up again before the postseason, and then after we get bounced in the first round, we'll feel good, people.
Shout out to the chat for being there. Shout out, of course, to LAX. Again, Clint, thank you. Marcus, thank you for being here. For the Blue Review, I've been Joe Kelly, and we will catch you tomorrow, 8:30, 8:55.
Cheers, fellas.
That's it.